Good, very good. Mr. Darko.
Ling Ling finds a wallet on the ground filled with money. She takes the wallet to the address on the driver's license but keeps the money inside the wallet. I'm sorry, Miss Farmer, I don't get this.
Just place an X on the lifeline in the appropriate place.
No, I mean, I know what to do. I don't get this. You can't just lump things into two categories. Things aren't that simple.
The lifeline is divided that way.
Well, life isn't that simple. I mean, who cares if Ling Ling returns the wallet and keeps the money? It has nothing to do with either fear or love.
Fear and love are the deepest of human emotions.
Okay, but you're not listening to me. There are other things that need to be taken into account here, like the whole spectrum of human emotion. You can't just lump everything into these two categories and then just deny everything else.
If you don't complete the assignment, you'll get a 0 for the day.
When Donnie Darko was released in 2001, it didn't arrive as a classic. It arrived as a puzzle. A low-budget indie film that became a cult favourite, quoted, dissected, argued over, especially by people like me, who encountered it young and carried it with them. Over the years, it's been described as a time travel movie, a teen movie, a psychological drama, a film about fate, or mental illness, or the end of the world. But what's striking, watching it now, is how little of Donnie Darko feels incidental. The characters, the institutions, the choices that shape the story, even the moments that resist explanation. All of it feels designed not to provide answers, but to return instead to the same question, again and again. The film never states that question outright. It trusts you to find it in your own time. Nowhere is that design more visible than in the place where the film spends most of its time, a high school. A space meant to teach people how to think, but more concerned here with order, certainty, and acceptable answers. Even among the adults, not everyone is free to speak openly. Those inclined to question learn quickly when to keep their thoughts to themselves. In a place like this, uncertainty isn't explored, it's managed. Doubt is tolerated only when it can be contained. Performance is encouraged, while art that unsettles or disturbs is quietly removed. And when something like Donnie himself, doesn't quite fit the constraints of this world, the resulting disruption is quickly deemed intolerable. But not every adult here speaks with the same voice. Those who listen and engage, instead of preaching, leave their mark on the world, and on Donnie.
There would be headlines in the papers. Even the grown-up gangs who ran the betting at the All-In Wrestling and the Barrow Boys would hear with respect of how Old Misery's house had been destroyed. It was as though this plan had been with him all his life, pondered through the seasons, now in his 15th year, crystallized with the pain of puberty. What is Graham Greene trying to communicate with this passage? Why did the children break into Old Misery's house? Donnie Darko, perhaps with your recent brush with mass destruction, you can give us your opinion.
Well, they say it right when they flood the house and they tear it to shreds, that, destruction is a form of creation, so the fact that they burn the money is ironic. They just want to see what happens when they tear the world apart. They want to change things.
Each vessel travels along a vector through space-time along its center of gravity.
Like a spear.
I beg your pardon?
School is often where young people first begin to find a voice of their own. That voice doesn't form in isolation, and the relationships we build there can have a real impact on the ideas and values we're exposed to, and the ones we feel drawn toward. We begin to make sense of the wider world, and we learn fairly quickly which behaviors are rewarded and which are not. In that environment, teachers matter not just for what they teach, but for how they respond when a student begins to think for themselves. Good teachers understand education isn't about simply imparting knowledge. It's about making a space where curiosity and independent thought can exist, and where difficult questions can be explored.
Destiny, come to an end.
Not if you travel within God's channel.
I'm not going to be able to continue this conversation.
Why?
I could lose my job.
Okay.
Hey, Sharita, you want a cigarette?
Shut up! Shut up!
Go back to China, bitch.
Just leave her alone.
Some good shit, huh?
The pressure on young people to conform carries on in other ways, and challenging such pressure doesn't often earn approval.
We gotta find ourselves a Smurfette. Smurfette. Not some, like, tight-ass Middlesex chick, you know? Like this cute little blonde that'll get down and dirty with the guys. Like Smurfette does.
Smurfette doesn't fuck.
Donnie doesn't interrupt because he wants attention, or status, or control. He interrupts because the premise is wrong, and silence to him would feel like complicity.
First of all, Papa Smurf didn't create Smurfette, Gargamel did. She was sent in as Gargamel's evil spy with the intention of destroying the Smurf village, but the overwhelming goodness of the Smurf way of life transformed her. And as for the whole gangbang scenario, it just couldn't happen. Smurfs are asexual. They don't even have reproductive organs under those little white pants.
Damn it, Donnie. Why do you gotta get so smart on us?
So, let's go over this again. What exactly did you say to Ms. Farmer?
At school, this instinct to speak his mind has greater consequences. What matters here isn't the language Donnie uses to insult his teacher. It's the expectation. This is the moment where disruption is meant to be corrected, not through understanding, but through apology. Donnie doesn't argue. He doesn't escalate. He simply refuses to perform remorse he doesn't feel.
Nobody cares about responsibility, morality, family values.
That refusal isn't just uncomfortable, it's destabilizing.
Kitty.
Moral authority has a way of rushing in to fill the gap, especially when certainty can be framed as virtue.
Our paths through life must be righteous. I urge you to go home and look in the mirror and pray that your son doesn't succumb to the path of fear.
What's being offered here isn't guidance. It's a moral verdict, and delivered with complete certainty. And confidence like this doesn't come from nowhere.
Hello. My name is Jim Cunningham, and welcome to Controlling Fear.
Easy answers to difficult questions have always been seductive. They promise clarity without effort, and moral confidence without the burden of uncertainty. For institutions, that appeal is often hard to resist. Over time, complexity gives way to slogans, and education quietly becomes the distribution and entrenchment of belief.
I want to know why this filth is being taught to our children.
When institutions feel threatened, they often reach for certainty instead of understanding. A moral panic becomes a convenient tool to counter ideas that feel uncomfortable or unfamiliar.
And I think that this garbage should be removed.
Excuse me. What is the real issue here? The PTA doesn't ban books.
The PTA is here to acknowledge that pornography is being taught in our curriculum.
You even know who Graham Greene is.
Conviction like this doesn't just silence dissent. It's applauded, rewarded with social status, and given center stage.
Good morning, you mongrels. Good morning. Now, is that all the gusto you can muster? I said good morning. Good morning. Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Because entirely too many young men and women today are completely paralyzed by their fears. They surrender their bodies to the temptation and destruction of drugs, alcohol, and premarital sex.
This is certainty, elevated into spectacle. Confidence without doubt, answers without nuance. The advice sounds compassionate, but it asks very little and offers even less. Cunningham is selling comfort and reassurance, packaged as wisdom. And this falseness is something Donnie finds intolerable.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How much are they paying you to be here?
Excuse me?
Are you telling us this stuff so we can buy your book? Because I gotta tell you, if you are, that was some of the worst advice I ever heard.
Do you see how sad this is?
You want your sister to lose weight? Tell her to get off the couch, stop eating Twinkies, and maybe go out for field hockey. You know what? No one ever knows what they want to be when they grow up. You know, it takes a little while to find that out, right, Jim? And you. Yeah, you. You think of some jerk shoving your head down the toilet. Well, you know what? Maybe you should lift some weights or take a karate lesson, and the next time he tries to do it, you kick him in the balls.
Son, do you see this?
Right?
This is an anger prisoner, a textbook example. You see the fear, people? This boy is scared to death of the truth. Son, it breaks my heart to say this, but I believe you are a very troubled and confused young man. I believe you are searching for the answers in all the wrong places.
You're right, actually. I am. I'm pretty troubled and I'm pretty confused, but I'm afraid, really afraid. Really afraid, but I think you're fucking Antichrist.
Get him out of here! How do you think you are?
It's amazing, you know? The man thinks he's telling the truth, and everything he says is just a fucking lie. Everything he says!
What disturbs Donnie isn't the lie itself, but how easily it's accepted.
Are you okay? Sit down. Calm down.
Thinking like this doesn't make him powerful or popular. It isolates him.
She was just standing there in the middle of the road, frozen. So I got out of the car and I walked over to see if she was okay. And she leaned over and whispered in my ear.
What did she say?
I mean, I think Frank wants me to go talk to her, you know, because the last time I saw him, he asked me if I knew about time travel, and she wrote a book about it, so they can't be like a coincidence, right?
Donnie, what did Roberta Sparrow say to you?
She said that every living creature on Earth dies alone.
How did that make you feel?
It reminded me of my dog, Callie. She died when I was 8, and she crawled underneath the porch.
To die?
To be alone.
Do you feel alone right now?
I don't know. I mean, I'd like to believe I'm not, but I've just never seen any proof, so I just don't debate it anymore, you know? It's like I could spend my whole life debating it over and over again, weighing the pros and cons, and in the end, I still wouldn't have any proof, so I just don't debate it anymore. It's absurd.
The search for God is absurd?
It is if everyone dies alone.
Does that scare you?
I don't want to be alone.
Donnie's fear isn't simple teenage melodrama. It's the fear that nothing is watching, that nothing is guaranteed, that when all the structures fall away, What's left is infinite solitude. Donnie sees a world built on reassurance and feels the emptiness beneath it. Stripped of easy answers, meaning becomes a matter of attention, something you have to choose and work toward.
Hours of pain and darkness and replace them with something better.
Like images or what?
Yeah, like a Hawaiian sunset or the Grand Canyon. Just things that can remind you of how beautiful the world is.
You know, we've been going together for like 2 weeks.
Yeah?
Well,
You want to kiss me?
Well, I'm
Donnie,
sorry.
wait.
I like you a
just
lot.
want it to be at a time when it
When what?
when it reminds me just
Well, it reminds you how beautiful the world can be.
yeah. And right now there's some fat guy over there staring at us.
Gretchen Ross doesn't come into Donnie's life with answers, but she provides something else he needs: connection.
Where do I sit?
Sit next to the boy you think is the cutest. Quiet! Let her choose.
It begins in small moments: a seat in a classroom, a glance held longer than expected. Gretchen meets Donnie with curiosity, and he responds in kind. He speaks openly around her, and she makes space for him. Their acceptance of each other rests on honesty, and it gives both of them somewhere firm to stand. He doesn't hide his strangeness from her, and she doesn't ask him to.
I don't know, she didn't leave a note, and the house was all messed up.
As their relationship deepens, meaning grows through closeness and shared vulnerability. Companionship when life turns frightening.
Well, I mean, didn't your dad, like, stab your mom?
And when cruelty finally breaks through, when Gretchen is publicly humiliated and reduced to spectacle, the moment that follows isn't heroic or triumphant. It's quiet, it's imperfect, but it's real. The kiss doesn't erase suffering, it doesn't solve anything. It simply affirms that connection, freely chosen, can still exist, even in a world that offers no guarantees.
Wake up. I've been watching you. Come closer.
Donnie's aggressive behavior, his increased detachment from reality, seemed to stem from his inability to cope with the forces in the world that he perceives to be threatening. Has he ever told you about his friend Frank?
28 days. 6 hours. 42 minutes. 12 seconds. That is when the world will end. Wake up, Donnie.
When certainty collapses, guidance becomes tempting, especially when it asks nothing of you but obedience. Frank offers something seductive: purpose without authorship, action without choice. For Donnie, this feels like release. The first acts of destruction feel less like decisions and more like compulsion. A school is flooded, a house is burned. Each act reshapes the world around him, while sparing him from the consequences.
Cunningham, who has become a recent celebrity for his books and motivational tapes, was arrested early this morning. Arson has not been ruled out as part of the cause of the fire.
At the start of the story, a jet engine tears through Donnie's bedroom. Frank leads him away before it falls. This is enough for Donnie to trust in his plan.
I have to obey him. He saved my life.
Whether Frank is a messenger, a delusion, or something else entirely is never explained, but the effect is the same. Donnie stops deciding for himself. Obedience becomes a substitute for agency, and certainty a way to avoid deciding what one is responsible for. At the party, Donnie is finally present, not following instructions or raging against untruths, just here with someone he's chosen. Meaning here isn't deferred or symbolic, it's felt. And after falseness, true meaning can be disorienting.
Under the Milky Way tonight.
After this, Donnie begins to see where things are leading. The film stops feeling playful and starts to feel tragic. The paths reappear. The doom that surrounds Donnie is not chaos, but fixed, merciless order. A system that moves forward, whether you choose it or not. This is the certainty that Frank offers. But purpose without agency is only ever borrowed, and borrowed purpose eventually runs out.
Do you believe in time travel?
And it's something quite peculiar. Something to shimmer.
We gotta go. We gotta see Grandma Dad.
Why? What is this about the book?
No, it's right. Because time is running out. We gotta go.
Destination. Under the Milky Way tonight. Wish I knew what you were looking for.
Frank no longer speaks as a guide. It becomes a destination. A point in the road that cannot be avoided. The path narrows, and the reckoning ahead seems inevitable. Obedience without understanding can lead only to tragedy, and the danger that Donnie faces is no longer purely existential. This is where certainty turns to pain, and pain to unbearable loss.
What did you just say? What the fuck did you just say? Our savior.
Donnie!
Frank, what the fuck did you do, man? You killed her, Frank! What were you guys doing in the middle of the road, huh? What are you thinking?
In an instant, Frank's power over Donnie is gone. Guidance ends, and all that remains is responsibility. Love doesn't cancel suffering. Connection doesn't erase loss, but it can justify immense sacrifice. When Donnie pulls the trigger, it isn't rage or confusion, and it isn't obedience. It's the return of authorship, of agency. Donnie watches Gretchen die, and his future collapses into a single unbearable clarity. In that moment, he understands that meaning cannot be found through surrendering one's will, but only by contending honestly with an uncaring and uncertain world. Gretchen doesn't save Donnie from this truth. Instead, she gives him something that makes it meaningful. The life that Frank preserved is the life that led to this point, and that life had a price that Donnie cannot accept. As the moment closes in, the choice becomes clear. Donnie finally understands. He smiles and decides to undo the world that saved him and choose one where Gretchen lives, even if he does not.
What if you could go back in time and take all those hours of pain and darkness and replace them with something better?
Dear Roberta Sparrow, I've reached the end of your book, and there's so many things that I need to ask you. Sometimes I'm afraid of what you might tell me. Sometimes I'm afraid that you'll tell me that this is not a work of fiction. I can only hope that the answers will come to me in my sleep. I hope that when the world comes to an end, I can breathe a sigh of relief, because there will be so much to look forward to.
Donnie Darko doesn't offer easy answers because it isn't interested in reassurance. It's interested instead in the shifting dynamics of belief, in schools, in society, in families, and inside a single frightened mind trying to make sense of the world. Donnie doesn't suffer because he's wrong. He suffers because he insists on seeing things as they are, even when that clarity costs him comfort, belonging, and eventually his life. The film's ending resists explanation because it believes that meaning must be found rather than given. It believes meaning doesn't survive being reduced to slogans. It survives in questions, in connections, and in choices made without guarantees. Most importantly, meaning isn't found by escaping the world, but by choosing when and how to be present within it. That's why Donnie Darko endures, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as an invitation to reflect. And for those of us who encountered it young and carried it with us, that invitation still matters.